So there have been more and more people who are moving overseas, and there have been a lot of conversations about moving overseas away from America. Recently, Taraji P. Henson even said she would be open to the possibility.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts?
Well, she was kind of tired of racism.
Well,
She didn't, I don't think she got specific in the information that I read, but pretty much she's just sick and tired of the pressures of having to deal with it. And I can relate to that because we've been overseas for now 12 years. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you it's much better. Come Taraji, if you're listening, come on in. The water's just fine, you know. But I think the conversation.
Well, what are the benefits? Okay, so you're saying it is better. There's less racism. Explain that.
The racism is different.
Okay.
Yeah, I will say that there's less racism. I mean, particularly since, half the time we've been overseas, we've lived on the African continent, right? Almost half. And we have been to how many sub-Saharan African countries?
7.
7, And I think the thing is you don't deal with the same things, the same types of racism in America, the ones that really beat you over the head. You don't feel threatened over here as much because you're black. You don't feel that, and you don't have as many conversations about race.
So
right.
Okay, so we just said
police brutality doesn't. Right. That type of thing doesn't exist overseas. We don't have to worry about the police harassing us or in fear of our lives. I mean, we have been harassed by the police, but not in a way that I feel like I'm going to lose my life. That doesn't happen.
Right. So we lived in China, Hong Kong, Beijing, Guangzhou, a total of 7 years.
Yep.
And then we've lived on the African continent for 5. Mm-hmm. And we've traveled to other places in the meantime. So I want you to kind of give me a ranking of what was the best place to live as far as ease of
being black
tension.
and being an interracial
being
relationship.
An interracial couple, being together, you by yourself as just an African American man, and then as an interracial couple. So give me those kind of comparisons.
Ethiopia was the easiest, by far.
For both categories, both as a black man and as an interracial couple?
So let me answer the first question first. So
okay.
You asked just by myself, which country did I feel like I had black privilege, if there's such a thing? That was Ethiopia, no question. People treated me better because I was a black American. They treated me with respect. Like I walked down, like it's hard to explain because, I took my son to the barber shop in Ethiopia and the guy, he's like, oh, you come first. That guy can wait. I got there second. But he's like, oh, you can wait. I got special treatment in Ethiopia. And so when people talk about white privilege in America and people misunderstood what it really means. It's privilege that you don't realize you have. Right.
Experiences that I
yes, people misunderstand white privilege for
I'm
privilege.
White, right?
People misunderstand white privilege for privilege. It's not privilege. It's not dealing with the thing. It's not dealing with the things that people of color have to deal with. But in Ethiopia, I had privilege. I had American privilege, and I was black. Mm-hmm. So people respected that. They were like, and I got all the time. Why are you here in Ethiopia? Don't you want to be in America? I'm like, no. Right. But for the first time in my life, I understood what special privilege was. Mm-hmm. Right. There's certain things I did not have to deal with. Now, if I had grown up like that, I would think that that's normal.
Right.
Right. And not that we didn't have our hardships, because we did, but Yeah, definitely Ethiopia, number one. If I'm just by myself, in which country do I feel the most at ease? Is Ethiopia. Kenya was the other one. Unbelievable. Nairobi, I'm just walking around and I'm regular. I'm not special. I'm just kind of blending in. And I was out late at night, and it was you guys were. I was there for a week, and you guys didn't come with me on that trip, but I was there for how many days? I was like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, 4 days.
And I saw some French foreigners get stopped on the street by the police, and the police asked them for their passports. And I walked right by the police. And this lady had come up to me, and she's like, "Oh, you're American. They're going to stop you." They didn't stop me. The police didn't stop me. That's a type of privilege that you can't explain.
That is something that you experience that obviously you wouldn't experience in the States.
I wouldn't experience in the States.
That would not happen in America.
No.
We got pulled over for not turning a blinker on. All the time.
And there's times where I'm 11 miles over the speed limit. I don't care.
Right.
You get pulled over. Or you have a police officer that's tailing you. In America, I had this happen in Orem, Utah. I had a police officer that was just following me. And finally, I start going slower and slower, and he pulled me over for going too slow. I'm like, dude, you're right behind me. What am I supposed to do? So things like that situation that happened in Kenya and then Cameroon.
Similarly, that happened in Cameroon.
Similar.
Oh, and you were with Lyra at the time.
I was with our daughter, who was not even one at the time. Mm-hmm. And the police officer pulled a group of us over. We were on the same vehicle, and the police officer pulled us over in Cameroon and asked for everybody's papers because we were going...
Except for yours.
Except for mine. They just assumed.
Just assumed.
I gave it to him anyway, thinking I had it ready, but...
Totally unnecessary.
Totally unnecessary. So,
all right. So those are the most at ease as an individual. You would say Ethiopia first, and then Kenya.
Yeah, Ethiopia by far, because I got treated with special privilege because I wasn't in. To be fair, I wasn't in Kenya long enough to experience the privilege, right? Mm-hmm. But when I saw the police officers stop the white people there, the French people there, and I walked right by them. I'm like, oh.
Oh, that's what that feels like.
That's what that feels like. Oh, that's what that feels like. But because I'm a foreigner, I'm aware.
Right.
I'm aware that I could have been stopped. And because of what the lady had told me, they're like, oh no, they're stopping people tonight for whatever reason.
Right.
I don't know why.
Okay, so is your list different as an interracial couple?
Yeah, it's different.
Okay.
I think Gambia was the most friendly, within the sub-Saharan African countries. I thought Gambia was the best. Like, we were there long enough to kind of get a feel for it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were tourists, and people knew we were tourists, but that kind of... Well, and they knew, because our skin tones are different, we asked a couple of Gambians, do I blend in here? They're like, no. We could tell.
We know you're not
We
Gambian.
know you're not Gambian.
Right.
As far as Kenya, that wasn't the case. And even in Ethiopia, people thought I was from Ethiopia.
Yeah.
Until they start speaking to me. They start speaking to Mark to me. I don't know what the hell they were saying, but...
Well, and the kids, too. Like, they thought that kids were Ethiopian.
Yes.
And I had, I met several Ethiopians that were similar skin tone and to our children. So that's different.
I mean, you would say... I think you loved Gambia almost as much. I mean, you loved it more than I did, right? As much.
Yeah. So of the African country, Gambia is my favorite. I definitely felt the most comfortable there. I felt like I could go running and people aren't going to look at me. Whereas in Ethiopia, except for our very small community, after everybody had knew that I was your spouse. So, in Ethiopia, once I was introduced as Julian's spouse, then I was good. And within that community, I was okay. But as soon as I went outside of that, then it was just a lot of pressure, a lot of questions, a lot of stares.
And you got called China a couple times.
And I got called China a lot. So China was what they would say to anybody who was a foreigner that they didn't like. Because
Yeah.
Because the Chinese are coming in and buying everything, and so they just are, that's their way of being not nice. But so Ethiopia was different. Once we were a couple, like as an interracial couple in Ethiopia, we were fine. Like that wasn't a problem. Me all by myself was
a little bit of an
issue.
But not that way, and it wasn't that way in Gambia.
No, not at all. Gambia was individually, I was fine. I could have gone for a run and had nobody look at me twice, like I was just another person running. I went to the market. I could have gone to the market on my own, no problem. In Cameroon, I went to the market and I went with a friend, and she was like, no, you don't wear any jewelry and you don't carry any money. I will carry all your money. Right. And she handled all the money. But I didn't feel unsafe in Cameroon at all.
Because my perception of Cameroon, that it was safer than Ethiopia being on your own. Because we had heard stories about Ethiopia.
Right.
And we heard, before we got there and while we were there, we had heard stories of foreigners getting accosted. But we did hear those stories, to be fair.
Most of those stories about foreigners being accosted were also associated with when they had a couple too many. That's when they were taken advantage of. And so...
like someone we knew.
Yeah, like someone we know. But... Yeah. So that way I didn't feel about it. Cameroon, I didn't feel unsafe on my own. But the other place I would say, so I'm going to lump Senegal and Gambia together, but Gambia is my favorite. But the other place that I felt like I was not at all an anomaly, and I would say was really good for you, me, and the kids, like as a whole group, was actually Congo.
Yeah, Congo was
really good for us as a family.
Yeah, it was.
I was safe as an individual. You fit in. The kids fit in. There was zero conversation around any of that. Mm-hmm. Like, I think there was a little conversation around privilege as an American being in the Congo. Yeah. But there wasn't any like, oh, that's weird, or why'd you marry her, or... No questions, none of that. Because you have gotten how do you get a white wife?
I did in Cameroon and Congo.
There have been a few questions like that.
I want to discuss something that has been out there for a while. And thank you for listening, by the way, if you're still with us. So there's this big myth that I had heard I have not found to be true at all. And that is Black people in Africa not liking African Americans. I've heard that. I've seen it on the internet. I've seen it in Black Twitter spaces. I've seen it on social media, and that's been a discussion.
You know what?
Let me just say this. That is not true. I'm sorry. I know that everybody has their own individual experience.
Right.
That's not remotely true. I've been to enough sub-Saharan. When I say sub-Saharan, I mean countries with Black people in Africa.
Right.
That is not true.
Africa, which is Arab
Africa.
No,
that is not true. I have not had an experience where I've been discriminated against because I'm African American. Right. African American or Black American, as many countries refer to. Also, I have to say the worst country.
Okay, what's the worst country?
The worst country so I saw this on a list of top places interracial couples can go.
Oh, yeah.
And I completely disagree with what was, I think, in the top 5.
It was number 10.
It was number 10.
So I
so you know what country I'm talking about.
I read a list of top 10 countries for interracial couples to go to, and number 10 was
South Africa.
No. Disagree.
No, we disagree with that. As a couple, I don't think
we completely disagree.
I will not be going to South Africa anytime soon. No, right. I just won't.
Now, to be fair, we were only in Johannesburg, and every time we've spoken with a South African or anybody else who's traveled, they're like, "Oh no, that's not the good. Go to Cape Town, right? Go somewhere else."
But we have to fly into Johannesburg. It makes no sense.
Well, no, we could get directly to Cape Town. Anyway, but Johannesburg was very uncomfortable, and people were just flat out rude.
Rude to us. The
Just-
hotel, the
Right.
waiter, the looks.
Yeah, it
we
was-
went to like 2 movies because we couldn't do anything.
Right. Like, let's go to, let's be
We
in the
just
dark.
went. Let's go in the movie because I think
Right.
you were pregnant at the time.
I was.
with our son, and
Yeah, I
and
was
we just
pregnant,
couldn't.
and going anywhere
Was tough for
yeah,
you.
it
I
was
think
a
at the
lot
time.
of- right. I mean, besides being
Beautiful country,
pregnant and uncomfortable, but it was
uncomfortable.
Yeah,
there was
it
there was
was
some uncomfortable stares. To the stairs where sometimes when people are looking at you, you don't notice.
Mm-hmm.
But there were times where I would be walking. We walked. I think I told you this. We walked. We were in Mandela Square, and he had just Nelson Mandela had just passed.
just passed. Right.
Probably
right
2
before
months.
this.
Right.
Yeah,
Probably
just
a
few
month
months
before. And we walked in Mandela Square, and we were in the mall, and just I could out of my peripheral vision, I could
Feel.
just see the
Everyone's
eyeballs
like,
just staring.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, this is uncomfortable. And it's I think that's the first time I felt uncomfortable.
Strange question.
Yeah.
South Africa or China?
China. I'd rather live in China.
You'd rather live in China.
Yeah, because I didn't feel out of 7 years there was a total of one major time, but there was a total of twice. There were 2 times
Where you felt
where I felt legitimately
unsafe.
No, where I felt legitimately unsafe. 2 within 7-year period where I felt legitimately unsafe.
Okay,
where
so
something may happen here.
So compare that to a 7-year period in the States. Sorry.
Man.
I'm
You know
sorry.
what?
That's
You know
just
what?
mean. I shouldn't.
You know what it is about America,
Go ahead.
and God bless America because I spent 36 years of my life there. America is you don't know when you're unsafe. You can't anticipate. That's not true in China. I could go out at 2:00 in the morning and be fine. I have done that. I could go running 6:00 in the morning and I don't feel unsafe.
Yeah.
I never felt, it's rare that I feel unsafe, like something's going to happen to me. I'm not going to get shot.
Well, you're not going to get shot in China.
Not going to get shot in
Not
China.
even the police carry
Guns.
guns. The
But
only people
I don't
in China
feel
that carry
unsafe.
guns are the ones protecting the money.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Right. So it doesn't compare. The safety in America,
comparison.
because even though I'm from America, America's like 4 different states. There are 4 different countries in one. You've got the South, which is its own country, and you've got the Midwest,
and
then you've got the West,
and
and
New
North.
England.
Right?
Like, yeah.
Very different. And I don't know all the parts of the country. I know the Midwest very well, but no, there was times that I would be in Springfield, and all of a sudden something would happen, and you're like, okay, I'm not safe.
Right.
So it's not the same.